I'm Matt Curtin, radio operator KD8TTE. In this episode 92, we are going to look at the job of net control. This is a master's class on how to conduct net operations to maintain a log that always shows the state of the net, directs all activity of the net, and leaves you with a log that allows you to give a complete and accurate report of everything that has happened. We'll have a little bit of Q&A at the end of the video from participants in the net who are also joining by video conference. Make sure that you also check out the links below in the description. Like, subscribe, you know the routine. Stick around.
Black Swan, Black Swan.
And good afternoon all. Thank you for being here. We are going to be demonstrating net control today, and I've got my screen configured so you'll be able to see all of what I'm doing. Over in this screen, you'll see today's date, and I've got the way that my log is set up. So the big thing is, while we talk about what we're doing during the net, the way that I log is somewhat unique and is very helpful in keeping track of what's going on with the busy net. So I'm going to be using some combination of some of the macros that we have here. For example, the iControl. I did not just use that, but I could have. I'm going to call for messages with that macro, and we'll begin the process of calling things up. I want to point out that I have in my log, I have for stations, I've got for a section for fetching. That's some traffic that we're going to be bringing into the circuit from somewhere else. Stuff that is relaying, so things that are in progress. Traffic that's listed, traffic that has relayed, stuff that is finished. And so we've got KE8NHT is reporting in, so I'm going to call him. And first, I'm going to check his authentication, Bravo Alpha November. This is a piece of software that we're using now that is going to allow us to... Okay, and that tells me that I've got good authentication. So I'm going to report Roger and out. So he has ZKE, he's reporting into the net. Z and B authentication is Bravo Alpha November. That is good over here. We then also have IP, so that means he's got internet protocol access to a messaging server that we have. ZBO is traffic. He's listing one routine for QSP editor. So he's listing that traffic. I'm going to go ahead and take care of that right now. 5, and that's going to go to KD8TTE because that's where QSP editor traffic goes. NHT. And I'm going to make sure that I add him here. Let's call for another set of stations that have messages. I add him to the stations list while that's going on. So I'm building up over here a list of stations that are in the circuit, including one that reported in by Winlink before the net actually got started. And here we've got N8ADO also reporting in. Fantastic. So we come over here. We'll record that report in. Let me see. So he's got something WOILN, hazardous weather outlook ILN. So that's for Ohio is what that's telling us. Okay, good. So this is the product. We've got K8. UUK is reporting in. He's got one routine for ZFP-CLE. So that's the zone forecast product from the National Weather Service. CLE, the Cleveland office, and that's for the county of Marion. He's also got one special weather statement. So special weather statement, that is actually some kind of an alert, but it's routine. That's going to OH Delaware, OH Franklin, OH Green, OH Montgomery, and OH Union is going to be where all that stuff goes. So let's go check the authentication codes that we've got for N8ADO. He gave us OSU. That is a good authentication. And then K8UK gave us TIA. Those are both good. So we've got them both into the net. AD, okay, UUK. So I'm telling them both Roger, out. Now I've listed, you can see I'm moving with some haste here, but I'm not rushing. I am taking my time. The fact is, when you're net control, the net will wait for you. Not indefinitely. If I don't answer for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, somebody's going to start asking, has anybody heard from me? And then somebody was going to wind up assuming the position of net control. But you do have time. There's no need to rush. So we'll give another call for stations with traffic. Meanwhile, I pop back over here and I'm going to get my other stations in, N880 KE8 UUK. And I've got somebody is reporting in, but I didn't quite catch it. So I'm going to give that a moment. We'll see what's going on here. Meanwhile, I pop over and look at Winlink circuit. And in fact, we had another station come in by Winlink, and that is authenticating COG. And that is good. So I'm going to get that other station that was reporting by Winlink. It's not on screen, but it is KF8ATJ is also in the circuit by Winlink. So I'm going to switch down to MFSK32 because 64 didn't quite get it. So let's make that call again. And maybe I'll catch the one who's authenticating here. So you'll note that I changed my transmit. The Reed Solomon ID on TXID has been enabled. I made that call again, giving it a minute. One of the things that we always watch out for when we have weaker signals or a station that doesn't have a good connection is they might not catch a mode change like that. So again, we'll be patient and make sure that they have an opportunity to catch the transmission, to make sense of it, and then to respond to it. As net control or any other station in the net, you don't know what's going on with any other station. So while we want to be as prompt as we possibly can when responding to others, we also need to be as patient as we reasonably can when taking things that are coming back in. All right, all right, this looks like it is KE8FMJ. So Full Metal Jacket's now reporting in. TK Zeman Hog QRU. So let's check that authentication hog. It's good, but it was used. So I'm going to ask for another. So let's see. Int ZNB. So I'm going to ask her the authentication Foxtrot Romeo. So the software that I'm using, I'll explain that later, but this is the software that I've been building up for the purpose of creating those dryad tables that we're using for authentication. And also you'll note lately that our alerts have also been authenticated. Those are being completely automated. So we receive that feed from the National Weather Service. And then as those messages are created in the form of the 16 line, the software is able to authenticate using the table at the time that the message is being originated. And that's because I have automated it with this software. And here I'm using it interactively to test for authentication and also to use it as the basis for prompts that we're doing. And this is good. So we're going to tell FMJ. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got FMJ in the net. She's got no traffic, so let's get that taken care of here. Good. Now let's call for any stations that need to get into the circuit. We'll stay on MFSK 32, and by the time we start moving traffic, we'll start kicking things up again. While all that's going on, you'll notice that I've started to get some stuff that's backed up here that I don't have listing. That's okay. I'm going to start moving some traffic, and then I'm going to start sorting things out. So let's take a look here. K2I. Oh, cool. Jeff making the trek all the way from New York to LCZB. All right, HCKAQRU. And all right, so we've got a couple of other stations that are coming in. So we're going to check the authentication for KTM. It's good. Authentication KE2I doesn't have the dryad, so we know that. So I'm not going to give him a hard time about that. And so we've got N8KTM, KE2I, and N2LC are all in. No traffic. All right, so let's get another call for stations. See if we can advance in there. Meanwhile, let's update our station list: KAUK, KFMJ, NAKTM, K2I, N2LC. And here's WDSDH, very good. And he's reporting in GNO, very good. So that works. Let's update the list here: WDSDH, CK3, ZMV, GNO. And we'll give him a call back. And we'll add Dick to the list of stations in here. Okay, so we've gone through, we've made calls for traffic, we've made calls for any station without regard to traffic. We've moved down to MFSK 32. We've got Jeff in from New York, so we know we've got a good footprint. We've got stations locally as well, so we're not overshooting everybody. So I'm going to kick back up to MFSK 64 and start getting some of this traffic taken care of locally. KE8NHT has traffic that is for my station. And I'm going to tell him to send, ZOF is to send one routine for KD8TTE over. And I've got TXID re-enabled, so I'm switching the mode of the net to MFSK64. And Mark, NHT, and I have a good circuit, so I'm certain that he's going to pick that up. So he starts that transmission, and now I'm beginning to receive it here. Once I get the geometry of this message in and I get an idea how long this is going to be, I've got a while here. I've got maybe a half a minute. So while all that's going on, I'm going to deal with all this traffic that we have to list. So the traffic listed, we've got the TTE stuff. We've got the ADO is listed a hazardous weather outlook for Ohio. So that's going to be, we're going to send that up over here. That's going to Ohio. And then we've got this message here from UUK. He's got stuff that is going to all of these places: Delaware, Franklin, Greene, Montgomery, Union. So I'm going to take a look at what stations we have in here. Delaware, we have nobody in from Delaware. Franklin, we do have our two Winlink stations, 88CM, KF8ATJ, are both in from Franklin County. I am also in Franklin County, so we do need that one. Greene County is another big one. KE8NHT, N8ADO, KE8FMJ are all from Greene County. And then we have, after Greene is Montgomery. No Montgomery County stations in. And after Montgomery is Union County. And we have KE8UUK is from Union County, but that's who's listing the traffic, so we're not going to tell him to transmit it to himself. So what I've done at this point is I've got this all organized in the traffic listed, and I'm going to move that one that I have directed to send is now up in my relaying section. I did a copy or a cut and a paste, dropped it into relaying, so I can see the status of the net. This station's receiving, this station is sending, and what is being relayed is here. If I send somebody off side channel, for example, if I had sent the two of us over to 40F2, I could keep track of that here as well. Let's see if there's an opportunity for that today. In this case, we're relaying it on the main control channel. And also, I'm going to note that we are on 40F1. All right. So we should be getting relatively close. Oh, we still have a little bit more time. Oh, okay. We had about, this is a bigger one. Okay. Good. So now I've got time. I'm taking a look at the net again. I've got some stuff that can be fetched. We've got that SFT, the state forecast table for Ohio. And then we've got a whole bunch of these messages here that are all of our exercise traffic that we have queued up in Omaha. I had a look in the messaging system so I know what stuff is queued up. So I'm going to take a look at what we've got going on over here in the messaging. So for those of you who have not seen this before, there is, well, let's see, how much space have we got? How much time do we have here? Looks like we still got a fair bit. So I'm going to find the command post outbox So this is from Hawbrick, the Hawbrick Armory station. And it has a command post out box that's here on our messaging server. So the concept here is that if we have deployments, we have emergency or incident communication center set up, they all have some kind of a local area network. They have some kind of server set up and so on. And this is a field deployable kind of thing. We can set this up. And this is where normally messages are relayed and so on. In the event that they have internet service, whether it's wired in there locally or whether they have to fall back to something like, 5G service or satellite or something like that, if they have internet, then we can use internet to relay among the command posts. In this case, we are simulating that internet is not necessarily available to at least some of the stations that are in the circuit, and that's the reason that we have to use HF to relay these messages. So the procedure of the net is that we have the ability for stations to act as a gateway that will go between the IP system and HF. It looks like I'm missing a block, so I'm paying close attention to what's going on here so that I can make a report in a timely fashion. And then we've got the fill that's coming in. It's just block 48. Very good. Here it is. And we've got the whole thing. So now I'm going to tell him ZEV. That is the print equivalent of Roger. I have received the message. So now I'm going to make another call. Let's see if we've got any other stations who want to report in. I'll go over to where I have that traffic that's relaying, cut and paste it. So now it is under the traffic relayed section. I'm going to need this later when I'm counting up my traffic relay. So what I've got now, stuff that's listed, is I've got, let's see, we've got Delaware, Franklin, Green. So we've got a bunch of stuff in here. I need to see who my stations are. So I'm going to tell KE8TTE to send his one routine to OH Franklin, OH Green, and that's the only ones that we have that are supposed to get that message. So then the question becomes, how does he know which of the messages I'm talking about? Well, that's because the other one that he's got listed here is this one for Marion. And so we know that the one zone forecast for Marion is not it. So what he does have listed is all of this stuff that is going to be that, what he said, it was some kind of an alert. I forgot the way that he listed it. Okay, so we've got for OH Marion D. Okay. So we've given an instruction here to make this transmission, and we've listed it so that we're saying, all right, this has to go to stations that are in Franklin and Green. Now, stations Franklin and Green are going to be needing to pay attention so that they know the order that they're supposed to be answering in. The good news is that what we have is stations NHT, ADO, FMJ. These are all Greene County. And all of our Franklin County stations are either in by Winlink or it's me. So that means that we shouldn't have a lot of stepping on top of one another. We go in net order. I'm going to be explicit with everybody about what net order is before we start moving a bunch more traffic. But the stations that we've got moving right now should know their net order. These are all regulars. So we don't have anybody besides net control in the circuit for Franklin County, so that's going to take a moment. Next one is going to, none for Delaware. Next one up is Franklin, so nobody's there. Next is going to be green, so we're going to see the green station starting to report. And so we've got ADO is reporting, and there was another station at the same time, so probably these two doubled. Nope. And there's a report out of order, but we're getting our way through all of this. And so we are now going to see. Okay, so I'm going to tell you UK, stop transmitting and wait. And what we have here is NHT has the whole message, as does, oh, I don't know if ADO's got it or not. So as net control, I'm left with a situation where I've got this report that came in, and it looks to me like it's showing ADO, but I've got NHT coming in at the same time. So now I've got to figure out what am I going to do with this. I've got another report from NHT down here that says confirm. So I know for sure that NHT has it. FMJ needs a bunch of stuff. So now, rather than tie up the circuit for all of what's going to go on over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell KE8 NHT, N8 ADO, and KE8 FMJ to change frequencies to 40F2. And then I'm going to tell KE8 NHT to send to N8 ADO and KE8 FMJ. Now, if KE8, let's say that N8 ADO already has it, he doesn't need to get bent out of shape about it. He's just going to go over. He's going to follow the instruction. He's going to take whatever comes in. He's going to give the report, and then all of that stuff is going to get taken care of. So when they come back, they all have it. I, as net control, don't need to micromanage that. I don't need to overanalyze the situation. I am just making things move. So I've given the instruction. Now they know what they're going to do. So NHT is off to 40F2. ADO is off to 40F2. FMJ is off to 40F2. So now I know that they're over there. So let me go back to where I've got my relaying traffic here. And I'm going to note that this is now happening with, let's see, we've got N8 ADO and KE8 FMJ are getting this traffic from KE8 NHT. And we also have a situation where KD8 TTE and KE8 NHT got the same traffic from KE8 UK. So this is the one that was sent. This one has been received, but we still have two other Franklin County stations that need to get this. So KF8ATJ and 88CM both need this. They're going to have to get it from somebody, and I'm going to come back to that somebody here in just a moment. All right, so now I've got another station that's reporting in while I'm taking care of stuff over here. So I'm not going to freak out. I'm just going to keep my act together here, and it's going to look like I'm totally cool and collected. So I'm going to tell N2LC that I received his listing of a field sit rep. Let me bounce over down here to my traffic listed. Field sit rep is going to go to TTE from LCZB01R field sit rep. I'm going to call for stations while I take care of this stuff that's relaying. This is something that's relaying. It has to happen yet. This is something that has already happened, so I'm going to catch that up. That is correct. It's done. That is in the process of happening over on 40F2. And we've taken care of all of that. We just broke all that stuff up. So this is something that needs to be moved down to listed because we haven't given anybody an instruction for that yet. And it's got to come from one of these stations that has that. So this is going to have to come from somebody. I'm going to make this up as I'm going. I'm going to pick right now somebody that I know is Winlink capable. And the person that I'm going to pick for this is FMJ. And that's going to go by Winlink. ZOK is to relay via Winlink. All right, I'm going to tell N2LC to send that one field sit rep. So I go my field sit rep. I go from traffic that is listed. Hopefully he starts moving that, and I'll paste it up here in relaying. Okay, and it looks like it's coming in very nicely. All right, 8 blocks, the 96 octet block size. This won't take long at all. No, we are missing a block, however. So again, I'm paying attention, even though I've got all this other stuff going on. I'm just kind of scanning around to see what's going on. I don't get any kind of I don't get drawn into anything and start getting tunnel vision. So I see that this is about finished. I'm going to make that report. I'm going to do so very quickly. And so I'm going to tell him, ZEV, Roger, TNX, thank you, out. Now let's call to see if we've got any stations that are reporting into the net or who are coming back. That field sit rep, it's relaying, it's now received traffic. NHT is back. He's reporting in ADO FMJ. ZEV, they've received the message. He's received the message, they received the message. So they have all reported that they got the message. So we're going to tell KE8NHT, N8ADO, KE8FMJ, Roger, out. Roger, as in I received your transmission telling me that you're reporting back in. This is different from ZEV, which is Roger, that is I received a formal message. Let's call for stations, see if we've got anybody else out there that needs to be taken care of. Meanwhile, we'll bounce over here to our relaying, and we drop it down into our relayed. And now I'm going to give the instruction here. So I've queued this up, and I'm going to tell now FMJ, K8FMJ, to send that message to KF8ATJ and 88CM. I'm going to send the H Franklin to KF8ATJ and 88CM via Winlink. Now that message that we had from UUK, it listed multiple counties in there. And that is because that's the area that is covered by that one message. So they've received the message saying, hey, I've got the stuff for Greene County, but that same message is also going to Franklin. So I am telling her, send that Franklin traffic, ZOFOH Franklin, send it to these stations via Winlink. She's got it. She acknowledges it. That's taken care of. Now that is as good as done as far as net control is as far as net control is concerned about it. At this point now, traffic listed, we've got something for Marion that's from UUK. Let's take a look at our stations reported in. We don't have a Marion station in. K8BCI is from Marion and very often reports in, but he's not here today. So we're not going to worry too much about that. We do not have an outlet. We do, however, have an outlet for this HWOILN. Now the HWO-ILN, this is going to be for a bunch of counties. The footprint for ILN, it's one of 5 forecast offices that the National Weather Service has that covers Ohio, and it covers the majority of these, but not all of them. So I'm going now to tell the net which stations are in the circuit. So I'm going to call the net. ZKS is the signal for stations in the circuit. So I'm telling them now, these are all the stations that are in the circuit. So I'm giving net order here because we're going to need to have some of these things go. I'm going to take that N8ADO traffic that is for ILN, and I'm going to give the instruction to send that. Stations that I know need to receive that are going to be KE8NHT, KE8UK, KE8FMJ, N8KTM is covered by that area. N2LC, WD at SDH are not. And then we have, let me see. So then we're going to have that. Let me see. This is going to be for, who's got, oh, there's N8ADO as the traffic. So I'm going to tell him to send that ZOF1 routine, and the thing that we're going to have him send is the HWO-ILN. He's going to send that to NHT, to UUK, FMJ, KTM, and KD8TTE. And that's because I happen to know where all of these are. As a new net control operator, or when you are first in the net, or you see a station that you don't recognize, you're going to have to work out some of those locations. This is something that's more common, a problem that we have with Black Swan Net, because we're covering different groups and all of that sort of thing. So this is more specific to our net. The good news is that means we also have a regular set of stations, and over time, and it doesn't take very long before you start to know where everybody's from. We've got some other operators who prefer to have a map in front of them, which is totally cool. Whatever you need in your environment around you to help you maintain your situational awareness so that you can focus your brain power on what traffic is listed and where it's going to be routed, as opposed to giving yourself a constant memory test, is totally fine. The thing that you really want to do is to make sure that you are directing the traffic and that you are keeping track of what's going on in such a way that you can make an accurate and complete report of what has happened afterward, and you also don't miss stuff. We'll show you the procedure at the very end to make sure that we don't miss anything, because it does happen, or somebody brings something late and they haven't had a chance to list it yet, so there's an opportunity for them to catch that. All right, so this is still going on. Looks like we're about halfway through the message. And let's get back over here, the station that we've got. This is traffic listed. And so what is relaying right now is going to which stations? It's going to NHT, ADO, UUK. Oh, ADO is sending it. ZDO, yep. Okay, so it's UUK, FMJ, KTM, and TTE are all getting it there. And then we're going to have another one of them do the same transmission, to retransmit the same message, but it's got to go to our Winlink stations. So we're going to have our 88CM, KF8ATJ are going to get it via, and we've already picked on UUK, so let's pick on N8KTM. We'll have him send the HWO-ILN via Winlink. UUK. FMJ, and that means that I am up. KTM, good. Well, he's got it on the first go. Perfect. All right, so at this point, Bob, N8ADO, is gathering all of these missing blocks, and he's going to do the transmission that's going to get all of the fills taken care of. And I've got my And now that I've broken apart where all this is going, the stuff that needs still to go, I've not given an instruction for it. I've moved it back down to listed. Interesting. So N2LC has given a report. And he's probably done so because this is listed for OH. That's not probably correct. HWOILN is unlikely to be a hazardous weather outlook for the entire state. Now, I might be wrong.
Yeah, well, when I took the call signs that you listed and control C them, and for some reason it didn't paste over the OH. So sorry about that.
Yep. All right, no worries. So UUK is reporting in, or is reporting his receipt. He needed 12. KTM has got it. So that means I'm going to make my report here. So that was what was relaying. We're going to move that to traffic that was relayed. And now I'm going to give an instruction for N8KTM to do the relay. N8KTM, I'm going to tell him to send the HWOILN, ZOF HWOILN to KF8ATJ and 88CM by way of Winlink. So I've given the instruction, and hopefully he'll answer that he understands and we'll be able to handle that. He's got it. All right, perfect. So I'm now going to take this out of relaying and to relayed. Again, he's probably not actually gotten it on Winlink that fast, but for the purpose of net control, we've made the assignment. We have no reason to believe the station is not going to be able to take care of that. He's just told us that he can. Okay, so when we take a look at what traffic we have listed, we've got the Marion County traffic that still needs to go, but we have no Marion County stations. So we make another call. Do we have one? I don't think so. So let's see what we got here. So let's see. We've got some traffic that needs to go out. And so I just happen to know that because I created it a little while ago. And so I'm going to list that for Black Swan. Now I'm listing for Black Swan because I'm going to be sending that to all stations in the net. It's not just some specific geography. So this is going to be for anybody, whatever part of Ohio they're in, doesn't matter. Even if they're not in Ohio, doesn't matter. This is for all stations in the net. Ergo, I use the net's call sign. So when we get our answers back, we're going to expect to hear from all of these in order. Now, I didn't actually have it in my listed area, so while that's transmitting, I am now going to put in there, this is going to NHT, ADO, UUK, FMJ, KTM, 2ILC, SDH, from TTE, and this one happens to have a message number 6265. That makes it a lot easier to keep track of what's going on there. And then we're going to have to get somebody else to relay it to our Winlink stations. And let's see, we have picked on a whole bunch of people so far. So let's get SDH to do that. So KF8ATJ and 88CM will get it from SDH, 6265, by way of Winlink. We'll list that. All right, so NHT, ZEV, so he's out. N8ADO. Okay, this is good. All right, FMJ's gonna need some help. KTM's got it. Let's see. Let's see if 2I is still in. He's in from New York, so he's pretty far away. He may or may not be able still to be in. So we might have to send by Winlink for him as well. All right, so let's have the stations that need it are going to be, it looks like only FMJ is reported. So let's have N8KTM send to Full Metal Jacket. But before we do that, let's tell KE8NHT, who reported in with IP, we're going to tell him ZDD, that's bring a message into the circuit, 6246. And because of the procedure for the net, he knows that he's the IP relay. So he's going to go over to the Hawbrick station, which is the one that he's covering. He's going to go to the CP out box, and he'll find that there is a 6246. And then he'll know that he's able to relay that in. So that's the procedure that he's going to use. And he'll, in fact, find it when he goes in here. This is going to be the view. So he just goes in here and finds 6246. Where is it? Oh, it's in here somewhere. 6246. So he's going to get that message, bring it in. And so it's not yet listed. So we're going to have that now. We're going to tell KTM to relay the message to FMJ. So NHT is going to need time to go to Omaha to get the message, to bring it into his transmit queue, and to send it. So before we deal with before we tell him to transmit the message, we're going to warn him, you need to go do stuff. So I tell him to do that stuff while there's other work that needs to be done, so that any KTM relay can take place now. So I've given the instructions such that people have time to get ready and to get themselves organized so that they're able to do the work that they need to have done. Now, in this case, FMJ reported she needed the preamble. So here comes the preamble. Now we're probably going to see she might need a few other blocks. Well, she does. She needs 3 more blocks. Meanwhile, NHT is going to Omaha. He's pulling in the message. He's getting it listed and all of that kind of good stuff. So the 6265 is the one that is relaying presently. 6264 is one that I said to bring in, and that is the one that's right here. So that is being fetched, and that's being fetched by KE8NHT. Whew. Okay. And now as net control, we've got some problems going on here. Sometimes people get anxious about this and they want to get in there and try and say, oh, I'll force it down to 32 or whatever. We have rules for the way that the net operates so that net control doesn't need to micromanage. You give the instructions, you state what the objective is so they all know what they're supposed to do, and then let them operate. So give them the room to get that job done. They know how to change modes. They know how to relay. They know that the rules of the net are that you give it 3 transmissions, and if it just isn't going to work, then you bail out. So in any case, they're not going to get caught in an infinite loop. So whether he decides I can't move down to 32 for whatever reason, he's going to give it back to me because he's made his 3 transmissions, or he's going to go to MFSK 32, which is probably going to be more resilient. We'll give them a few moments to work that out. All right, so he's sticking with the 64. He's going to try and jam that through. He may be assuming that there is some kind of problem with fading, and going to 32 would, in fact, not be helpful because the fade is too deep to be able to survive, and the taking more time to do the transmission isn't going to help. So let's take a look and see what's going on here. And there, it worked. So we've got the message, everything's taken care of. So sometimes as net control, you might be surprised, like, why don't you go down to 32? Why don't you do something else? But again, give operators room to operate. All you're doing is conducting the orchestra. Don't try to play every instrument. Okay, and now KD8 or KE8NHT has traffic. Sweet. All right, so we're going to tell KE8NHT to transmit that traffic. But before we do that, we still have these other two stations that need to get that thing that we were sending. So we've got the relaying of 6265. That's taken care of. So we're going to tell NHT, we understand, KE8NHT. We understand. We're listing the traffic. So let's make sure we've got this taken care of. So the 6265 was sent, but we need to get that traffic that we just moved around over to KF8ATJ and 88CM, who are in by Winlink. We're going to give that instruction to WD8SDH. So we're going to tell him send 6265 to KF8ATJ into 88CM by way of Winlink. Now this thing has actually been listed, so we can move it here. He's got it. Perfect. So I've got this over here. That's moving that down to relayed. It's as good as done. And now I can tell KE8NHT to send the one that he listed, 6246. All right, so now we've got this going on here. And I just realized, oh no, I've got a problem. This is going to happen. So if you've been paying attention, anybody know what problem I have now? Remember, we had KE2I in from New York, and we didn't hear an answer back from him. And I just sent a message to all of Black Swan. I didn't have him listed anywhere in here. So I accidentally just dropped the traffic in here. So don't panic. I just realized what I did. I'm going to have to list this again. I need, for this traffic 6265, I need that also to go by Winlink to make sure that we get that to, in this case, KE2I. So as net control, I'm not going to worry too much about this. I don't know why he's not there. He might have faded out. I'm surprised that he got in as well as he did in the first place, but sometimes the band just doesn't hold, or we've moved to 64, in which case maybe he's got only marginal reception. Maybe at this point he's like, I don't know what's going on, so I'm going to follow with the SDR or something. Just to see what's happening. But in terms of two-way communication being part of the network, he has fallen out of control on this circuit. So I'm now falling back. So this is the idea with our PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. I'm just falling further back. I know that I can get to him with Winlink, so I'm going to direct that relay to make sure that he gets that message as well. Now, the one that we've got moving right now, that's for Ohio stations. So I don't need to worry about him catching that message. So let's get this taken care of here. NHT, ADO. Oh, NHT is actually doing the transmission. So NHT is not going to be receiving it, but ADO will. And then UUK, FMJ, KTM, LC, SDH. They're all going to get it. And now I also need to make sure that 88CM and KF8ATJ are going to get it. Now let's see, we've picked on just about everybody at this point in the net. All right, so we'll pick on Bob again. And so, as normal net control, operations go, you don't really need to be thinking about, rotating everything around so much for the purpose of making sure that everybody has had work to do. But because this is a training net, a training session, I'm trying to make sure that we balance everything out so everybody gets a chance to do one of the capabilities that they have. In practice, especially during real operations, we do want to balance things out, but that's so that we don't bury any of the other operators. If we've got a station, let's say an agency station, they've got 3 operators, and we've got another 3 stations that have individual operators, we might think, oh, well, I'm gonna send a bunch of stuff to, that needs to get done. If we've got 3 operators at one station, they're going to be able to do more things offline or off air. They're going to be able to do more message preparation, more message delivery, more thinking about what's going on. On the other hand, they still have one station. It's still one transmitter, one receiver, most likely. So they can't be moving a bunch of stuff in a bunch of different directions. On the other hand, the individual home operators, they are 3 different transceivers, so they're going to be able to go off frequency and to move stuff, but they don't have anybody there to help them at the station to be able to think about the traffic and all of that sort of thing. So thinking about what capabilities there are and also just how much room they have to be able to work, what resources are available to them, helps net control to balance out the work that needs to be done, and that that distribution of the load will help a great deal. LC, KSDH. All right, so I'm going to say that I've got it. So I listed that out. And do we have everybody has it? NHT. So that's confirmed. So that's ADO got it. UUK got it. FMJ got it. Something here. FMJ. KTM is next. He's got it. LC is next. SDH got it. And then I got it. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this guy over here. The stuff that was relaying. I'm going to go to down what was relayed. I'm going to take care of this now. I got to tell WD8SDH to send that 6265 to KE2I via Winlink. Because remember, I forgot to do that, so I listed it back here in the listed traffic. So he's got that. Perfect. So now we've got, let's see, picking on Bob now. So we're going to tell Bob, N8ADO, to send 6246 to 88CM and to KF8ATJ by Winlink. And that takes care of that. Now let's call for stations. Let's see if K8BCI reports in, because we've got this Marion traffic for him. Okay, so the point where we are now is our target for training is about an hour. So we're 4 minutes before the hour now. We've been running for 56 minutes and change. So I'm not going to bring in a new message because we have exercised different things. We've got weather products that we've brought in. We've brought in messages for the whole net. We've brought in messages for parts of the net. We've brought in messages that have to be relayed by Winlink. We moved stations to a side channel. We've exercised all of the critical things that we want to take care of as a training matter for today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to initiate the procedure to find out, is there anything else that we have to get done? So QRU is the signal that means nothing for you. So by putting the leading group INT in front of it, I'm asking the question, and I'm calling the net by its call sign, all of you, and I'm asking anything for me. That's the way that we do it here. I give it a moment. Nobody's coming in with any panicky, oh, last minute I didn't get to list this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to initiate the shutdown procedure. Great work, all. Thank you. And there we go. ZKJ is the signal to close down. And so now we will get all the stations answering, hopefully in order, as we go through the process of closing the net down. So now we've got that taken care of. Here's all of our stations that are in. We've taken care of all of this. I didn't bring in a whole bunch of stuff. That's okay. We're not in need of moving all of that. FMJ. KTM. 2I, we've lost him, so probably LC is going to give him enough time, but then is actually, oh, there he is. Okay, cool. So he got that at least. So LC gave him enough room. So even though we haven't heard from 2I, Lee gave him enough room to be able to get that transmission done. And then that's the last one. So now I'm doing the call for Black Swan. And we are out. I take note of the time. It is 13:58. So now down at the bottom of my log, 13:58 ZKJAR. So I note close down out time, not the time that I initiated the close down procedure, but at the time that I actually concluded the close down procedure. Sometimes we'll actually start close down procedure, something else happens, and we actually keep things going. Or we'll initiate close down for some of the stations and leave somebody or some group behind so that we are able to get some other straggling traffic taken care of. But we don't need to keep everybody in the net for that purpose. All right, so that is the way that I keep track of what's going on here. Normally I have, like for fetching, I have ZDD, and then I list all the stuff that's going on in their stations. I usually have ZKS in there, but I've spelled these out in English so that they're easier to follow for the purpose of this. So this is how you can get a look at what the process that I use for keeping track of what's going on looks like. So I've got sections that I have in my log. First is I've got the day, I've got the frequency that I'm on, the time that the net starts, and then I keep track of all the stations as they're reporting in. And I don't think about what they're doing as I'm seeing all of this. I just type what's coming in. So I got it all, and then you saw after they're in, then I go through the process of verification. I check the authentication before I respond to them, but I'm just typing all of the stuff, and I think about it later. So I've got all this. This is all the reports in. I keep track of them here. That way I can make sure who's authenticated. If there's a problem with authentication, I'll make note of it up here. Then I have my stations that are in the system. So that's going to include the circuit that we're controlling here, anybody who's reporting in from another system, such as Winlink, for example. I note that here, so I remind myself that this is how they are in the system, and I don't sit around waiting for them to respond in the circuit when they're actually reporting in from another system. Then my section for what traffic can be fetched. This is the stuff that's not listed, but I know that it's available from our messaging system. So you saw that when we had something like that 6246, I came in here and I pulled that in, and then that goes, once I've assigned it to somebody and they say, okay, they got it, they'll get the message, and then they'll report back in and they list it, the ZBO message. So when he listed it, then I move it down in here into the traffic listing, and I've got all of the traffic listed starts to build up in here. When I go through the process of having the message start to move, that's where I move it from being listed to something that is being relayed. So that way I can keep track of what is actually in the process of relaying. And you'll remember that when I moved somebody on a side channel, I put a trailing group. On the very end, I put the channel designator where they're operating. So this also means that while we have things going on with the net, I can always look in this relaying section to see what's happening. It's going to be what's happening on the control channel. It's going to be what's happening on the side channel, including what side channels are active, which stations are on the side channel, and which messages they're moving. So this is really helpful, especially when things get very busy. You might recall we had a net session, I think it was last week, where I actually had one group of stations that I moved over to 40F2, another group of stations that I moved over to 40F3, and it worked out very nicely. There was no intersection between them in terms of who needed the traffic. So everybody was able to take care of what's on F2, the other group taking care of F3, and in fact, I was the only station left on the control circuit, which is great. So think about that if we're talking again about emergency operations, or if we've got somebody who is likely to have urgent traffic, they're able to report into the control channel to be able to list that traffic. And then I, as net control, am able to figure out what to do with it at that point. And I don't have to wait for all the other stations moving these two separate messages to get all back into the circuit. And that's also the reason why I didn't say, all right, well, I've got myself plus this other group. needs to have this message, so I'm going to have that taken care of in the control channel. It's perfectly fine for net control to have everybody off frequency. Net control holds the control channel. There's no reason for me to watch the bits go by while all the fills are happening. So that's how I keep track of what the status of the network is in terms of traffic movement, where the stations are, and so on. My traffic listing, in this case, I still have one that's listed, and I know that it's just not going to move because it's something that is for Marion. It's a ZFP CLE, so I know that that is not specific traffic for a station in Marion. This isn't one that we have to get through. I know that's a training message. This is a zone forecast product. So that's why I didn't go through the process of, oh, do I find somebody and I'm going to relay it to them? I'm going to ask for which station actually needs it. Now, if any station in Marion who happens to be here is going to pick up the zone forecast product the way that's listed. So I didn't worry about it. So I leave that there because I had no outlet for it. Now my traffic relayed, this is where we get to the bottom, like, oh my God, this, keeping track of what was going on. One of the big points of anxiety for a lot of people about being net control is this report that I do after, like, now I got to go through my notes and my scribbles and everything else to keep track of this, or to figure out how to put the net back together so that I can make a report. So let's we remember, of course, if you've seen this, that we have FL message is how we in the Black Swan net take care of doing our reports. We have a custom form, and the custom form for the net control is, here we go, Black Swan net session report. And we bring that up, we hit the edit form, and then we get a browser window that has all that stuff in there. So the session date, that's today. I'm doing it right after the net, so this makes it easier. I don't have to go think about things afterward. I still have stuff in my head. And also, if I just click in there, it puts the current date. This is a regular start time is 1300. Okay, so now we've got our operating minutes. Okay, we started at 1300. Here, I've got that recorded. We ended at 1358, as I have recorded here, again, when I did the end of the close down procedure. So back over on our report, easy peasy, operating 58 minutes. Total of how many stations report into the net? Well, we have all of these guys who reported in and these Winlink stations. For the purpose of this session, the Winlink stations are still in. They had to be relayed, but they're still in, so we count them. So the stations that we have in are KD8TTE. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Don't forget to include yourself as net control. You are also in the circuit. So there are 11 stations reported into the net. Now, as we go through this accounting for the different traffic and precedents that we have along with it, notice the way that we have these messages that are being reported in here. I just type them as they're coming in there. I don't worry about trying to make too much sense of it until later. So I've captured all of this stuff as it's coming in, but then as it came in, when I got it down to the traffic listing, I had to do a little bit of work and move the symbols around and so on, so that it became something that was comprehensible. And then when I take something, when it's listed, when I'm actually having it relayed, then I move it to the relay session. I move it. It's a cut and paste to the relay. And then once the relay is finished, I again cut and then paste it down here. So I'm not retyping it and all that sort of thing. I type it in the first place as the station's reporting in. And I do some duplication as needed because I have to move things around to make the traffic listing make more sense. I have to turn this QSP editor here into a listing. And the way that I did that, you'll recall, is I put my call sign in front here and then had the rest of that go in. But that's a bunch of stuff that I don't need to keep track of for the purpose of the listing. So I got to cut that down to ZBO. That's the traffic, the number, the quantity, 1, the precedents, R, routine, and then what it is. So I can refer to it if necessary for the purpose of relays and so on. So that's the way that I had it listed. Once the traffic was finished with the relaying process, then I just, again, pasted it down here. So now the net's over. I'm going through this process. How much flash traffic do we have? Because I've got the precedence in here, I can tell very easily. Do we have any traffic that is flash? We do not. Okay, so that's easy. 0. Emergency. Emergency is ARRL precedence. We don't use it in the Black Swan net, but we also recognize that a station that is in need of working this circuit in real world conditions may not have practiced with us and may be using ARRL procedure. So if we've got a station that comes in and lists emergency traffic, we're not going to tell them to get off of our circuit and go read 5,000 pages of material before being able to move an emergency message. We're going to handle it without panicking, and we'll also be able to keep track of it. So in this case, we know that there's no emergency traffic. Again, we can see it from the listing or from the record of what has been relayed. Next up is immediate. Anything with the immediate precedence? Well, let's take a look and see. Do we have anything with immediate? Well, I don't see anything that says that's immediate. Okay, no, we don't have any immediate traffic. Good. All right, how about priority? Again, anything with priority, let's take a look and see. I'm doing a search now just to see, and there isn't. Okay, and then we get to welfare. Again, welfare is ARRL precedence. It's not one that we use when we're using the government procedure from ACP 121, but same as with emergency. If somebody is getting welfare traffic that they're reporting in here, we're just going to handle it. And then we are also going to be able to keep track of it here. Then we get to routine messages. Well, we know we got routine traffic. So we can see it right here. ZBO1, our routine. Okay, that's good. Now, this is a bit of a misnomer here in the way that this is written. So when we do a revision for this net session report, I'll probably do something that's a little bit less convoluted. And that is, we are not keeping track of the number of individual messages that at any point touched the circuit. We are keeping track of the number of relays. So if I send a message to Bob and Marcel, both of them receive it and report that they have received it. Even though they have the same message, it's 2, because it's 2 stations now have a message. So it's not from the transmission side that we're counting this. It's from the reception side that we're counting this. So for our routine messages, we can go through here very easily for my traffic relayed session. Okay, so TTE got 1 routine. Okay, that's 1. NHT and KD8TTE got 1, so I'm now up to 3. That's a routine field sit rep going only to TTE. That's 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. So I've got 34 in here. Now let's take a look, because I just counted a whole bunch. Let's go back and look and see if I count it again. Do I actually have 34? Did I miss anything? Did I duplicate anything? Any of those things is possible. All right, so you'll recall that we did not have on the 6265, KE2I didn't give us a report with FL amp. We assumed that it faded out or something happened. So we directed for that to be sent by Winlink by SDH. So what I've done is I've actually duplicated in here, because when I did this copy and paste, or this cut and paste business, 2I was still in my list. So I missed that I didn't have him listed separately, that he needs to go by Winlink, but that's because I still had him in here. So I incorrectly had him in the listing of traffic relay. That's how I missed him. So what I was thinking about it afterward, when we had the next traffic going, I said, oh, I'm going to have Dick move that message. So I overcounted. So I'm going to get rid of that 2i up here, because that 6265 2i is in fact right there. So now let's go through here again and count this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Go back over here. Oh, we had 34. We counted it up and it's 33 this time, but we know that we took care of that dupe. All right, so now our stations that are actually in the net. Let's go back up here. I got my stations here, and here they are. So I can just paste them down in here. Now, for the purpose of reporting on the net, we do not include any suffix except for net control. So I'm going to get rid of the /WL2K because it doesn't matter here. That was just a note that I made for the purpose of running the net so I could keep track of who was in the active circuit versus who needed to be relayed by Winlink. Last section is going to be, where is the operation? Well, we were on 40 meters. So that's where our control was here. And we did not use phone or CW. We did use NBEMS. We were not on 30 meters. We did specify Winlink, so we hit that as well. And now I've got comments, whatever's going on here. Now, sometimes we'll put in comments. Sometimes it's useful to know if operating conditions are very strange. If there's something crazy going on, interference, something like that can be very helpful to make note of. If things are happening very rapidly and let's say that we've got a bunch of emergency messages that are coming in, a bunch of weather reports and a whole bunch of flash and immediate precedence traffic, that's going to affect the way that the net operates. It may be useful to know that. If this session is part of an exercise other than just our regular weekly training, this is something that's part of the Arctic Propagation 25 exercise, a session for that we might want to make note of. Any of those things is possible, but you don't need to make a comment if there isn't anything that you feel is that you need to draw attention to it. And so then at that point, we're ready to hit the submit form, and that'll create the K2S file. Before we go through all of that, I want to pause in case anybody's got any questions for what we just did with respect to the net report, and then I'll go back to the whole thing and we'll deal with questions for any part of what we just did today.
Thanks, Chief. Do you want to count the N8ADO transmission that was picked up by N2LC, although it wasn't directed or wasn't supposed to have been directed to him?
Great question. So the N2LC, I completely forgot that we got a report from him. So I don't know if it was a report that said that he got the whole thing. I can scroll back here and check. Also, I want to show something that's really, really helpful for running these digital nets. In FLDIGI, the file menu, go down to text capture. It's got an option, log all RX and TX text. If you enable that, your life will be considerably easier, because when you're very busy as net control, despite all of this wonderful stuff that I just showed you, it's going to get more jacked up. So when you need to go into the forensic mode of reconstructing what happened, you do have that ability. So let's answer the question presently by looking at that. Now I'm on a Unix-based system, and so the place where the FLDIGI logs are maintained is my home directory .fldigi. There is in Windows a folder that you'll have in your home directory that is called fldigi.files, and you'll find your logs are under there. The FLDIGI logs start with FLDIGI, and then they have the date starting with year, in 4 digits, 2 digits for month, 2 digits for day, .log. And so let's take a look in here And we've got that N2LC for the transmission from Bob, and the transmission from Bob was HWOILN. And so here it is. Whoops. Well, that's fantastic. I had it and I just got rid of it. Perfect. Okay, so here it is. So here is we have received this from N2LC. He's reported that he has received it. So the question is, do we record that as a relay, despite the fact that it was not actually directed at him? The answer is we don't have a rule for this. I'm not going to cry if you do it either way. I did not do it, but it is a relay of a message. So for the sake of keeping track from the receiver side, even if we have an errant reception, if it is a complete reception, I'll go ahead and count it. So we'll do that now. But if I miss it, I'm not going to worry about it because it wasn't one that was supposed to go through there. The other thing is that if the report came in and he didn't have the whole message, he needed fills or whatever, then I would tell him to cancel the message. I'd send him a QTA signal. So cancel that. It's an N2LC QTA. So don't bother trying to get the rest of this. So that's actually a really good demonstration of like real world stuff that happens. Now we can say, oh my God, why did he answer it? Remember it. We could say, oh, it's Bob's fault because he put the OH in front of it and whatnot. Well, but it also could be from the perspective of the receiver that the band was such that he didn't actually get to see where it was sent. And so he's got to make a judgment call on whether it was supposed to go to him or not. And he's taken a look maybe at the name of the file or something and trying to figure out, oh, do I actually need this? Didn't have time to work out what it was, so he made the report. So I'm not going to freak out over it. But since it was a report, we did get the report. We're able to see it. I'm going to go ahead and count it. So thanks very much for that, which also means I'm going to need to update my log. So that HWOILN down here, that went to all these guys, and that includes LC. So I've now got that in there. So now after the fact, if we go through and add those up again, we redo the arithmetic and the accounting is going to work out to our updated number back to 34. All right. Thank you. That's a great question. Anything else?
It's very clear.
All right. Wonderful. Oh, Jeff's actually in. Cool.
You
How you doing?
Fade. You did fade. I'm doing well, thank you. 40 meters is trouble for me getting in.
They don't call it fickle 40 for nothing.
It is like I could see the whole net, and then everybody just disappeared. And then I can only see half the net.
Yeah. So Jeff's in from New York. So this is interesting. In that it allows us to get a perspective of, because we're designed to operate NVIS. We're meant to be an Ohio-centric net, but obviously we need to reach out beyond that. So we think, okay, well, FEMA Region 5, that's a no-brainer. But I mean, the reality is that Ohio is butted right up against FEMA Region 4, FEMA Region 3, FEMA Region 2. We share borders with all of them. Not to mention Canada. So we obviously need to have that capability to reach out further. And so from your perspective, Jeff, and what you're able to see, I mean, how well are you able to follow the net? I mean, especially since you're not meeting with us in person, obviously, and going through all of the training that's going on. From your perspective, how does this look in terms of your ability to follow and then to be able to use the net as a resource should you need it?
Well, the only so it worked really well. I think one of the times I checked in, you sent me off to a separate frequency. We had to go way down to like 11, but we got the message through. It took a while. Right, but it worked. So the only challenge I see would be getting in or somehow checking in initially. I think the first time I tried to check in, you were running at like 128, and it's like I can hear you, but nothing's decoding.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say, oh look, I'll try and change. Like no.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the event, and the way you're thinking is the same way I'm thinking. If there's something really bad that happens, we're going to be overwhelmed here in Eastern New York. And is there some other resource that's not involved in whatever the event is that we could leverage? So I really like the longer distance. It is kind of marginal with NVIS. I think that's how I'm getting in there.
I would think so. I mean, because you're you're not that far away. So,
right. It's like 500 miles, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of the outer edge of what we think of as NVIS. But I mean, that's gotta be what it is. I mean, if you were on a vertical, you'd be overshooting us.
Yes. Yes. And that's what happens on, I'm also doing a nationwide net, NBMS net that they're doing. And I can't hear anybody near me because they're running verticals.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't have any trouble. Now they're running Olivia 8500, so much slower. So it's the trade-off between who can you talk to versus how much data can you send. And I like the speed that this net runs.
Yeah.
Like, what we're doing, say on New York State races, what we're doing with the local NTS with voice. It's all very slow, 20 words per message tops. And in the event of an actual emergency, there's going to be lists, there's going to be reports. It's just like, I want to see us getting there. And I think seeing what you're able to do also kind of sets that expectation for the art of the possible and something to reach for. So
cool.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
Well, I hope that you found that helpful. Whether you are an amateur radio operator working as a volunteer for an agency, or you are a government radio operator yourself, this session's to help you to understand how to be a more effective net control operator. If you've got questions or comments, please make them below, and we'll be happy to address those as they come up. Somebody is certainly going to be able to benefit from your experience or have the same question that you do. We hope to hear you on the air. This is Radio KD8TTE, out.